And hello, 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 hello. Good evening, everyone. How are you? This is Demetrius Big Meach Taylor, and you are dishing tea with me right here on YouTube Live, honey. I'm coming to you right now because I've decided that as an avid fan of Iyanla Fix My Life, that I was going to join the world of commentation and give my commentary on a few of her episodes. In fact, this particular season, and I wanted to weigh in and chime in on a couple of the episodes. So today, um, I'm going to focus on the first three episodes of the new season. Okay, and I realize that many of you have already had your share of things to say about the very first episode, the season opener with Kamaya, or aka Alexis, the girl who was abducted and carried on. But I'm going to give my take on that. We're going to talk about Memphis, and we're also going to talk about the Seven Brothers. Um, that's a three-parter because they just did the first part this past Saturday. And I want to weigh in on those things and all of that. But before I get started, I'm going to invite you to subscribe and to add on to the page or whatever here on YouTube and to go to all of my social media outlets. And let's make this discussion worthy, honey. I'm going to share my commentary. I'm going to invite you to put your comments and stuff down below. And let's have respectful dialogue, if you will. You know, I don't want anybody to sit up here going out of the way, calling each other bitches and hoes and motherfuckers and all that kind of jazz unnecessarily and things of that nature, being disrespectful. Let's learn how to have adult conversation and learn how to agree to disagree without being disagreeable. If you feel me. So that there is that. But for anything about me, I encourage you to go to my website, www.dishingtea.com, www.dishingtea.com. You can find out everything you need to know about me, about my radio show, Dishing Tea with Big Meat on Blog Talk Radio Network. Also, about my books, Awakenings, Epiphanies Along a Spiritual Journey, and my second book that's about to be released this week, Revelations, Affirmations, and Confirmations. It's a companion piece to the first book. And I'll be putting information down below for you to tag in and to order your copies, okay? So there's the public service announcement. So let's get into this. Now, let's start with Miss Kamaya, aka Alexis. And I know many of you children, honey, y'all had a field day with this one. You know, y'all sit up there, oh child, Mr. Yanla, girl, you should have did this, and you should have aired this, and blah, 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 and yakety smackety, and blue. Well, you know, here's the thing. Um, with this particular programming, let me start by saying, oftentimes, I hear a lot of naysayers. Those of you who really don't care for Iyanla and carrying on, a lot of you have really gotten upset with her over the whole DMX thing. You know, y'all were hateful that she sat up there and y'all felt that she treated DMX in a way that was disrespectful. Y'all felt that, you know, she got all in his business and trying to tell him how to run this and his son this, and y'all really felt some kind of way, particularly with the whole DMX thing. Here, I'm almost thinking that some of the comments that I've heard or have read or whatever seem to echo those particular sentiments. A lot of people feel as though that she shouldn't have aired this. Oh, she's just doing this for TV ratings and carrying on and blah 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 blah. Well, let's go here. As I keep playing that episode over and over in my head, I went to go rewatch it as well. There's a few factors here that I think are standouts that a lot of people really have not paid attention to. Let's go here. First off, we have a delicate situation to begin with. We have a young lady who, for 18 years, have been living her life in a way that was very normal to her. The woman who she knew as mama was mama. That woman raised her, took care of her when she was sick, put clothes on her back, put food in her stomach, took her to the doctors, took her to school, you know, help her through her evolution as a woman, took her through her first menstrual cycle, her first days in school, all of this, that, and the other. So for all intents and purposes, this woman is her mother. Okay? Now, uh, I'm sure that little Miss Lady did not plan on or had not excuse me, had not anticipated on the whole idea with the birth certificate and carrying on when this woman, young lady, was becoming a woman. And now, she had to fend for herself and do the things necessary to become acclimated into adult life. And this is where it bit her in the ass. And so now we have this whole story unfolding and et cetera, et cetera. Iyanla coming into play seemed to have been an avenue to where I oftentimes think that people forget what she does or think that their experience is not going to be as hard as they may have seen on television. And I say that because you have to remind yourself, Iyanla does not solicit these people. They contact her. Some kind of way, shape, form, they contact her. Okay? So when she comes down here and does the assessment of carrying on, what we also have to remember is we're only seeing an hour. In fact, it's not even a whole hour. We may be seeing 40 to 45 minutes worth of time that has taken a couple of days or whatever to put together. You know what I'm saying? The prep work, the setup time, and this, that, and the other, the pre-interviews, and all this, that, and the third that goes on with creating the show. Now, having said that, here's a couple of takeaways from that. Now, let's go here first, because I thought the most devastating thing of the whole process was the fact that the birth mother never showed up. When the birth mama decided that she was going to be a part of the process, but at the last minute decided not to be there, that was my red flag. Now, I thought that was going to be the niche of the story, okay? That little Miss Girl, honey, was longing for a connection with her birth mother, trying to make sense of all of this, wanting to understand, what had happened, and trying to be empathetic and sympathetic about that. I thought that was going to be the story. So as Iyanla started the process of trying to understand Little Miss Girl, that's when this started to unfold. You understand? And as this started to unfold and become what it is, okay, it looked peculiar to me, okay? As we went along with this particular storyline, the boyfriend, now I'm going to tell you something. The boyfriend, to me, he did not seem as though he was all the way together. The boyfriend seemed to be someone who he was a little slow to me. And that's not a bad thing. It's just that I think that part of Little Miss Girl's world, if you will, or her coping mechanisms was to get folks who she could control, who she can lash out at and carrying on, because the boyfriend did not seem to be one who was, had his own backbone, if you will. And I thought that was rather interesting. So as we continue with the story, here is what got to me, because after Iyanla finished with, the initial assessment with the young lady, Little Miss Girl, that's what I keep calling her, Little Miss Girl, and we come into the discovery of understanding and processing that, okay, we're talking 18 years, and, the life that you knew suddenly became interrupted because of this horrific tale, okay? And when Little Miss Girl was saying, she don't want to think about it, she don't talk about it, or whatever, and we saw that wall and that divide, okay? Because now, the woman that she calls and loves as mama is not mama. You know what I'm saying? And whatever all that is that she had to process and go through, that was becoming a bit much to handle. So, okay. But then when we started talking to the father, okay, and the father was sitting up here going through his particular changes, because here's where, if they had continued on with the process, the story would have been putting the father's pieces together. See, because we have a whole separate issue that we had to deal with. The father, I believe he said he was 26 or something when, and the baby mama was 16 at the time that little Miss Girl was born. So we talking that there's a statutory rape issue going on here with him lusting after some 16-year-old enough to where he had impregnated her. And then when we looked at his particular character, there's some things that didn't line up that he was going to have to work through. Okay? So this was becoming a much bigger picture. You see what I'm saying? So as we were going along this line, listening to him, it had become that way. Then it became very selfish, because now he's trying to, have parental rights and claims and this, that, and the other into something that he did not know. He don't know little Miss Girl, did not know her, for 18 years or whatever. So now you're forging a relationship with a young adult and you're treating her with kid gloves because you see her as your baby. And that there is a disconnect and something that they had to now learn how to forge, learn how to get past, because you can't make up for old times. So now, as we were going through and trying to get through the process, there were a couple of things that were disturbing. Now, and I know Iyanla pressed through because these are some of the tools. Remember when she put the girl on the bed and wanted her to color up as in the fetus form, and wrapped her up and carrying on and all of that. She does, that there is something that she does rather frequently, in order to get in touch with the young self, to get in touch and take you right back to the origins of wanting and needing and yearning for a mother's love. That there is a tool that she uses. And you could tell in little Miss Girl's face how she didn't understand what was going on, because you could tell she was like, okay, this is stupid as shit. You could see her process that. But you could also see that it was starting to make a connection, okay? Because as she started to understand it, it was starting to make a little connection and blah, blah, blah. When they put everything on the wall, trying to understand the emotions and what was the disconnect and this and the other, that was becoming a little that way. So it was starting to become overwhelming. When they got to the point of where Iyanla told the daddy, listen, okay, we got to get her to a point where these emotions that she's harboring come forward. Now she told them, listen, I'm going to either have to make her upset with me or upset at the process, because we got to break her in order to get her emotions. Now she said that out loud. Okay, and that's another thing that I want to side note here, because a lot of folks feel as though I've heard comments and stuff that she ambushes people, or she's always putting stuff in folks' face and saying it in such a way to where it becomes rude and disruptive. And no, what you have to understand is what she does is she puts that mirror in your face so that you can deal with it. This is the whole name of the show. You don't run from the problem. You have to deal with it head on. Call a thing, as she says. And so with that, that is part of the process that they signed up for. When the daddy said and agreed that he was going to be there to help facilitate this and to see this through so that this can happen, when little Miss Girl blew up, the first thing she said was, after she didn't want to stay, she was like, I'm not staying here. And Iyanla said, okay, you could go. But the assignment was for daddy and the boyfriend not to respond when she called, okay? And as you notice, they didn't go anywhere. They were still there in the house. But what this was to sit down to get her to face those emotions. But what happened? Those emotions came up in a tidal wave. Baby, she erupted like a volcano and became totally explosive, totally disruptive, totally combative, totally everything. And okay, and we knew that was going to happen. But what got it, when Iyanla washed her hands of it, was when the father did not honor his agreement and then started making excuses and started pacifying her behavior. And then it became to where now you're trying to save face, or you're sitting up here trying to uh, be there. You want to be there for your daughter, as if to say, okay, my baby is hurt, and I just need to be there to support her. When you still trying to get to understand her, because he got to talk about, well, she's just upset, and we can't tell her not to express her feelings or whatever. She's just and when he started doing all that bullshit, see, I would have threw my hands up too, because I'm like, okay, what am I here for? Because if you guys are not ready for the process, then this is not my thing. And if that's your choice, then that's your choice. And so Iyanla wiped her hands of it, because then this thing started to get that way and combative, and got to calling her all kinds of bitches and shit. She's gonna knock her in the face and bust her up and whoop her ass and all this, that, and the other. And that became so disrespectful. So, well, yeah, let me get up out of here before I hurt this little bitch. Okay? Because then she was about to become a lot of bitches. I know in my world, she would have been a bunch of bitches. Okay? Because you're not going to sit up there and have your way with me like that. Okay? At the same time, I'm not at that level where Iyanla is. You know what I'm saying? I've been deemed, they call me a gay version of her and carrying on. But I have not been one to learn how to separate like that, the way that she does, because she takes on a lot, and that whole learning how to separate and not make it personal, I have not mastered that yet, because I get attached to people, and attached to the problem in the story, and want to work hard to make it happen. Because I cry at these things. I'm crying every time she come on. Then I'm tearing up. I'm crying and things. So I know for me, it becomes a little bit that way. As an outsider looking in, but for her being there, when she wiped her hands of it and said, okay, this is not going this way, and she had to walk away from that because they wasn't ready. The criticism came, well, if this was not that, why would you sit down here and still air it? Why not? And see, here it is. A lot of folks are looking at it for this was great television and this, that, and the other. But it wasn't great television. What it was honest TV. Because the show was called Iyanla Fixed My Life. And oftentimes, she gets bad criticism for, well, did she really fix her life? And she always got the answer. She thinks she know everything. And I've heard some people say some real funky shit, regarding Iyanla. But in this particular case, the rest of the show, what she was setting up, we had to see the back end of it, because she had the other young lady who had been abducted, and shared that story and understood what that was. That would have been that would have been such a riveting moment, to where Miss Girl would not have felt like she was alone, like her story, wasn't going to have an ending and carried on. Now, here's something that I thought was very interesting, because I said this earlier to a colleague of mine. We were talking about this, and he says, when that girl blew up, I said, let me explain something to you. Because, well, first he said, that's not her first time at the rodeo. Perhaps this is how she relates to folks. I said, look at that very carefully. I said, because the first thing that she told Iyanla was, get my boyfriend. They don't sit up there and listen to you. They do what I tell them to do. He don't sit down there and listen to you. Then she was like, no, he better answer his phone, because if he don't, I'm going to kick his ass, because he don't sit down there and not listen to me. And then it went on from there. And I said, perhaps this is how she learned from Mama. See, we don't know what her life was outside of what she said. She had a wonderful, normal life and carrying on, but we don't know what the explosiveness of Miss Mama is, because the apple don't fall far from the tree, honey. The children pick up and learn how to deal with life from the parents. Now, granted, the biological parents had no stake in this, because they didn't raise little Miss Girl. The other woman did. So perhaps a lot of this explosiveness comes from what she learned in the household from Miss Mama. It's also interesting that I think it was the birth mother and Kamaya, aka Alexis, who contacted the show. Okay, because she always sit down and say, "What is it? Why am I here? What do you have me here for?" Blah 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 blah. And it's awfully interesting that the birth mother still had not contacted anybody to make amends, to say why it was here, why she backed out, and this, that, and the other. That there spoke volumes to me, because why is it that the birth mother could not face this process? What is it about that was still hurting her, that she's still pained about, that she couldn't go through this process? The other interesting point was the daddy wanted to sit down there and didn't want little Miss Girl to have any contact with the mama. Okay? She was like, well, I don't want her to have a relationship with her anymore, and this, that, and the other. But you can't say that when that's all she knew as mama. That's her protection. That's her safe haven. That's all she knows. So you come in there, you're the stranger. You see what I'm saying? And so with that, in trying to build a new relationship, that wasn't going to go, and it wasn't going to make any sense. That wasn't going to prosper the relationship if you're telling her to cut ties with the only thing and the only life that she knew. So we had a number of layers here that we had to see, because number one, not only for the bad rap that I think Iyanla gets, because a lot of folks think that they're looking for her to fail, or want to see what she can and cannot do as far as fixing somebody's life or whatever. A lot of people don't understand the exercises that she uses when we're doing spiritual healing and emotional healing and that kind of thing. A lot of people question her credentials and think, well, she's not a licensed therapist, and she's not this, she's not that. But at the same time of questioning her, you watch her every day, and you look for her to have these epic fails or whatever. Or basically, a lot of folks are waiting on somebody to hit her, or to knock her. I'd have knocked her in her motherfucking mouth. I heard somebody say that before. And I think a lot of times folks are looking for that. But this particular show needed to have been aired, because we see the breakdown in what can happen and what cannot happen when the tools are not utilized properly. Now, we have a number of children, honey. If y'all been following the season since it started like I have, then you understand and understand and overstand and understand that this is just the first step. What we have here that's aired on television is the first step. We're talking about a lifelong commitment to this. These are some of the tools that are needed, or that she gives you in order to take on, because we've gotten through this hurdle, but now what's the next hurdle to get through? What's the next, and what's the next? Because life still shows up, and life still does its own thing, because maybe you got over this, but now you have tools to know that if you face this again, these are some of the things that you can do in order to get over it, in order to deal with it, in order to process it. So these particular avenues were needed, and this show was very important, because it shows us we're dealing with young children, we're dealing with adolescents and teenagers and carrying on, and young adults, that oftentimes they get caught up in the mess, and in trying to sort their lives out, honey. We have to sit down there and give them the room to sort it. And I'm coming into the next show with Memphis, because like she says this all the time, you have to have permission to let your heart break. Okay? In this case, that explosiveness that little Miss Girl went through or whatever was her protecting her heart from breaking. She wasn't ready to go and face that yet. And rather than go through and force her to face it or whatever, we had to come out the process, because she wasn't ready. And I don't know if I'm gonna go back a few episodes, because remember when Selena Johnson was on and her family, and when her father, Seal Johnson, was not ready, or not, he wasn't hearing it, honey. He wasn't having it. Every time Iyanla said something, he had a fucking rebuttal and carried on, and he was not ready. So what did she do? She politely said, "Thank you for your time," and she bowed out. And she said, "You know what? Sometimes, honey, folks ain't ready, and you can't make them be ready. So you just thank them for their time, and you move on." And in this particular case, this is the same thing, because little Miss Girl was not ready for the move and carried on, and for what was to come. And I think oftentimes When she tell folks this is not going to be what you think it is, it's not going to look like what you think it's supposed to look like. A lot of folks, they say, yeah, I'm ready. And then when you get so far in, everybody want to cut the process. Okay? And that's a choice. But remember, honey, you're cutting this at an era where you haven't made your breakthrough yet because you don't want to sit up there and face what you got to face. And that's oftentimes what happens. We get a lot of folks who get involved in drugs, alcohol, sex, shopping, overeating, this, that, and the other. Everybody gets into some kind of addictive behavior because they're looking for comfort. They're looking for a way out. They're looking for a way to ease the pain or not have to deal with the pain. And so in this particular case, this is what that was. I wished that the process had been so that she could have met the other young lady and could have had built an ally and could have built some kind of reservoir for her in order to say, hey, you know, this is what I'm going through, and to talk to somebody else who have been through it to understand or try to guide her through some of the anger management issues, try to guide her through understanding. I'm trying to learn strangers who call themselves my mama and daddy, and they're responsible for me getting here, but I don't know them like that. You know what I'm saying? That would have been absolutely epic. It would have been historic. It would have been monumental had she had been able to meet this young lady. And if my spirit is pulling me in this direction to where I believe that this young woman is still in the corners, and Iyanla and the team are looking to still introduce them so that girlfriend can have a support system and carry it on. You know what I'm saying? I think that's going to be bad. And as you see at the end of the show, she has offered, whenever they want to come back to continue the process, that they're willing to come back. They would pick it up, you know, so that they could finish and get her to a place of understanding and a place of healing and things of that nature. Now, I'm going to go here because along with that show, she set up and did a backstage thing with the crew because the crew was affected by it and was, you know, talking with the crew and everything, and was wondering how did they feel about what was going on with the show and how it blew up and how it got out of hand real quickly and this, that, and the other. And I'm glad that she aired that so that their feelings can be heard, and so we can understand that this wasn't about making good television, because in a lot of ways, I'm sure Iyanla kind of felt a little personal about that because of the hurt and I won't say the damage, but the discombobulation of Alexis, and I'm gonna call her Alexis because the parents keep wanting to call her Kamaya because that's the name that they named her, but her abductive parent named her Alexis, and so everybody wants Kamaya, but she is Alexis. Okay, she don't even know who Kamaya is. Okay, and she's trying to develop Kamaya for the sake of saying, I have a relationship with my birth parents, and that there is their whole duality, do-I-diddy, honey. That's something to contend with. That there is a lot. You know what I'm saying? I'm sure Iyanla had some other people on staff, you know, some counselors and therapists or whatever that was going to be able to come into the mix, because she always lined the show up with somebody who were the professionals and carrying on to take it to that next level and take it for the aftercare and et cetera, et cetera. I just wish this particular show had been seen through, that this particular journey would have gone the distance, and that they had not chosen to abruptly cut it off because she wasn't ready. And I wish that she had gotten ready for this particular battle, this particular journey. Now, before I go forward, I want to know exactly what you think about it, and with my particular assessment, because this here was a vital piece. It was vital to not only the show, but it was vital to the public, because we have to look at this from an area of, if you notice, there's a lot of people who react this way. If you've been around people who've been through breakups, divorces, heartbreak, job losses. They have been diagnosed with a terminal illness or some kind of whatever. And when it's time to deal with it, so that you can get into a healing space, you always have that person who breaks down like that, or you have that emotional person that if they don't want to handle it, they become so explosive, they become destructive. How many of y'all have seen people who just decided to tear up houses like the Tasmanian devil and shit? And because they can't handle it and it's too much, or they're not ready. Oftentimes they're not ready. They isolate themselves from people. They shut down. They'll cut you off, or they become very crass and crude. When it comes down to interacting with people. And in the interim, a lot of their behaviors become at a point where they're very controlling, very territorial, okay, very demanding, very commanding, in everything that they do, because they're seeking for their identity. They're looking for something to be a little that way. It's very much so, as Iyanla pointed out on the program, the whole angry black woman syndrome. And didn't she blow up like you see on a lot of the housewives shows and all of them damn those reality shows where the black women on there, when they blow up, they blow the fuck up. They want to clap back. They want to keep it real. They this, that, and the other. And all of that is that. Now, here's a stunt. Now, because here's something to consider. Could this be that a lot of this behavior that Little Miss Thing had exhibited and have shown us and things, could this be that, she wanted to be a reality TV show star because that's what she's seeing on TV all the time? Okay. Did we see this as that kind of come up for her? I'm throwing it out there being a devil's advocate because I don't believe that. I'm just saying that that's a possibility because it just hit me that way. As far as, folks wanting their time and fame and carrying on, and how they could sit down there and use the platform to the way that they use it. Because when you think reality television and carrying on, that's all you know for reality TV. Is the blow up, is the this, is the that. And Iyanla is not that kind of show. And a lot of folks want to, for those who don't understand it, or those who are trying to prove a point, or kind of like how Judge Judy. Iyanla is like, I put her up there with Judge Judy and carrying on, because a lot of people now, this is 6 seasons, honey. If you coming on the show now and don't know what she's about and don't know how she do it, then I really feel that a lot of people are coming on to prove a point, okay, and to sit down there and to show the world, honey, oh no, she's not gonna read me like that, she's not gonna get at me like that. And I really believe that that's what happens often. Okay, wait a minute, hold on. Okay, I really believe that that's what's happening in a lot of these particular situations. Okay, this boy's blowing me up with these text messages. But I believe that that's what's really going on here in that particular thing. Now, but that's just something to throw out there as a thought, because I try to be as objective as possible and throw things out there that are possible possibilities, okay? Possible scenarios and carried on. And then to play devil's advocate, because I know this wasn't for ratings and carried on. At the same time, this is business and things, and they have a show to produce. It's a catch-22 situation, because when you're dealing with stuff like this, a lot of folks will say it's easy to say, oh, okay, you just doing this for TV, you just doing this for ratings. And no, because see, she shut down production on a couple of occasions that aired. We don't know, think about it like this, because we don't even know the shows that didn't air. Could you imagine what's on the cutting room floor? Imagine what was that in the edit, because this is what we saw that they edited together. Imagine what's on the cutting room floor that they couldn't show or didn't show. Imagine the number of shows that didn't get aired because maybe at the last minute they revoked their consent to say, yes, we can see this on the show, and yes, I'm allowing you to do this. You know what I'm saying? Imagine all of that, Because when we're dealing with something so personal, remember the show with the girl with the butt injections and carrying on, and there was some things that she didn't want to, when we got to the point and she got real belligerent and carrying on, and she had to face some ugly truths about herself. She couldn't do that in front of a camera, so they shut the camera down. And then when they picked back up, when she was in a space to where she was comfortable to reveal, that's when it picked back up. Okay, there was another show that she did. It was a white guy that they cut the cameras off because he felt that she was coming in degrading him, and he felt degraded and this, that, and the other for the ratings and this, that, and the other, not understanding the process and not understanding what he was doing to his daughters and carrying on. And that was, again, they shut the cameras down, you know, in order, and they came back 3 hours later, see, in order to pick the show back up. So no, this is not about television or creating the ratings or whatever. And maybe one could argue and say, well, you know, that kind of drama to show us that where she got to cut the cameras off and this, that, and the other, maybe that could be the ratings. Maybe that could be the drama needed to get the ratings because, they got her, and oh, she gonna tell him it ain't from her, and she gonna cut the cameras, and that's just the drama of it. And perhaps I would give you that. Perhaps in a business decision and carrying on, maybe that might be the drama of it to get us to the allure of saying, yes, come on in, and yes, this is something to watch, and this is something to see, or ooh, how did they handle that? So, okay, I would acquiesce and say that could be a factor, you know, but as I watch the show and look at how television is made and carrying on, and look at her sincerity, because she's been ever consistent. And that's why I don't believe that this is all for ratings, because she's been ever consistent. Everything about her, since we first met her years and years and years ago on Oprah show, she's always been consistent with herself and consistent with her teachings and consistent with how she approaches this. Now listen, I'm going to pause right here. I know I told you I'm going to go and talk about the other shows. That's going to be a couple other videos because I got to take care of something right now. I'm at the donut factory, and I got to go punch in and go get ready to do these kind of things. So stay tuned, because I'm coming back to give the other commentary on the other two shows. But right now, I titled this that everybody ain't ready to be fixed. And I say that because oftentimes folks get in contact with the show and want to be this and think they could go on here. I got friends of mine say, oh, I need to go on there because you need to help fix my life with me and my mama because we don't get along, and this, that, and the other. And a lot of people don't understand what they sign up for, because you thinking you're going to go up in there and because it's on TV, you're going to expose some shit, and, you know, we can get some out in the public and in the open. But in the interim, it's the work that is required that got to get done, and a lot of folks do not subscribe to. And when it's time to do that work, a lot of folks back down, which is why the show is necessary. This particular episode was necessary because look at your real life. She said, I'm here to help you do your work. Look at all of before this show existed, look at all the people who go through life and not take care of what it is they take care of. We got folks who still married, sisters and brothers, 50 years old and carried on, and they have not resolved issues and carrying on, you know what I'm saying? And resolved hurts and pains and that kind of thing. So with that, let me get ready to go punch in and carry on. I'm going to come back in just a few moments with video 2 of this so that we can make things happen, okay? So I'll talk to y'all in a minute. Again, please subscribe below, leave your comments and stuff down here, and let me know what you're thinking. Let me know if you agree or disagree with my commentary, and let's get the discussion going on and popping, and let's make this happen, children, okay? Again, www.dishingtea.com for everything Big Meach, and we'll go from there. I'll talk to you in a minute. Come on. Did it stop? Is this just gonna stop for me? Right there.